Had to make sure I changed over my audio for the rest of the show. All right. So, we're back. Election is in 4 days. So, what we're looking at is something that I hadn't been aware of until just recently. So, we got a couple things for you today. Jen Stuppy speaks to me about the slander she experienced in the Grand Haven Tribune. We all desperately need local news that will fairly represent all sides. You need all the facts so that you can make your own decisions. Also, why should you care about the Appellate Court? The Appellate Court? You may not have ever heard that word, the Appellate Court. But it is important. How should you vote on it? This Tuesday, we'll discuss how to find out the facts. And finally, policing is continually under attack, and the attack is in Grand Rapids right now. We will discuss this case again. We also have a little bit about the sexualization of our children in schools, which I'm going to show you what I'm looking at and what I'm digging into. And you can look at it and dig into it yourself to make your own decisions. I'm Anon Don. This is the Holmes Politicast. All right. Oh, well, that's not good. I don't have my... I guess, you don't want to probably see my face, but... There we go. We'll get me up in the corner so that people can't just... I don't know why the left will say things like, oh, you're not showing your face. Do you not believe in what you're talking about? Well, yeah, I do, but also you're, ripping down statues and going to judges' homes, so, people don't feel comfortable around you. So I will show my face. I don't even really care if people know my name, but I do make it a little bit difficult for them to find. So this is Anon Don, Holmes Politicast, starting out with you. All right. So here's what we're starting with. Jen Stuppy is a parent at Grand Haven. Well, she was a parent of a Grand Haven student. And she started to become aware of some of the books that were in her school, or in her child's school, rather. So I sat down and I talked with her about her long fight with the school board, about what the Grand Haven Tribune wrote about her, about what she's been doing to change the climate in schools. So here's just a small sampling of the interview that I did with her. This is about 35 minutes of interviewing, and she talks about quite a few things that have happened in Grand Haven High School, especially with the school board. She talks about some of the teachers. One of the teachers had actually shamed her student for being out door knocking for a Republican, which was interesting. She said the student is still, or the teacher is still there. The teacher that shamed her student. Now, this teacher allegedly said that he would rather his daughter date a Satanist than a Republican. So, pretty interesting stuff for a teacher to say to a student out door knocking for a Republican candidate. But we're not going to play that clip. You can go find it on the interview. What we're going to play is the part where she talks about what she actually asked of the school board, because that's the relevant part. So here we go.
She's married, and I said, listen, I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, you're a Democrat, you're a lesbian, let's just talk this through. Let me know what you think. We went through some of this stuff, and she said that's so inappropriate. Absolutely not. It doesn't represent gay characters. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to go to the school board, and though, like, my friend understands this. This isn't like a left-right issue. Like, we know you just don't give kinky books to kids without their parents knowing. That's a weird thing to do. So I go to the school board. I walk through. I got this list. I don't tell them who gave it to me. And I just say, I go through some of the things in the book. I'm reading it. They're embarrassed because I'm reading it out loud. And then I say, it doesn't matter if it's gay or straight. Can you notify parents and ask for parental consent? And that was the end. I was the only person at that board meeting. 4 days later, Jared Kramer goes to the Grand Haven Tribune and he writes an opinion piece saying that I went to the school board and I asked for all LGBTQ books to be locked up and banned, and that I would be responsible for the future suicide of LGBTQ youth. And that was the narrative that went out. So that started getting circulated, and that kind of became the narrative that went out there. I talked to my kids about the books, and I said, do you guys ever get anything that you feel uncomfortable reading? And my 6th grade son said, yeah, I have something right now my teacher gave me. Then I realized that the teachers were also getting books. They have their own libraries, so the teachers were giving the kids books that you never know, that you don't see it in the Destiny system. So I said, okay, what's the book? He goes to his room, he gets his book, comes back, he's got his teacher's name on the side of the book, and he opens to this page, and the book is about an adult male kidnapping a 16-year-old girl. He puts her in his basement.
Okay, so what I was saying there while I was muted was that not only are these books in the library, but they were also in the classrooms. Now, Jen made very clear that she didn't want the books removed, and she made it very clear to me as we were interviewing. You can go in, you can listen to the entire thing. She made it very clear to me that she doesn't want the books removed. She just wants a rating system so that parents know which books have explicit content, which books have maybe a rape scene, and be able to, as a parent, decide whether or not that's appropriate for her 6th grade student. Now, she went on to say that this teacher did not know what was in the book. It came with a list of recommended books from goodness knows where. So Jen was at the school board meetings trying to get these school board people to rate the books, have some kind of method for informing parents about what the contents of the books were. Now, it's what's really interesting about this is the attacks that came after her. Like she's not trying to get rid of the books. She's not even trying to get them out of the school. She's not banning books. And yet, Reverend Jared Kramer decided that he would go and write an article claiming that she was. So he says a small group of parents who goes by Grand Haven conservative parents, that's not really great grammar, but the Tribune printed it, has quietly been working to formulate a plan to get any books which engage with LGBTQ characters, themes, or issues to be removed from school libraries or kept behind a desk with the requirement of a parent's note to be checked out. So this part's a lie. Plan to get any books which engage with LGBTQ characters, themes, or issues to be removed from the school libraries. But then he coats it, sprinkles in just a little bit of truth. Or kept behind a desk with the requirement of a parent's note to be checked out. That seems pretty crazy. You know, just a book that has an LGBTQ character or that theme or that issue, well, it is still a sexual orientation. It is a sexual characteristic. Why does Reverend Jared Kramer have such a problem with parents being in control of what their children are reading? He's not really clear about that in this article. He does go on to cite some pretty irrelevant statistics, is the best way I can say this. Last year, the Journal of Adolescent Health published a study that found that 28% of suicides between the age of 12 and 14 were completed by LGBTQ kids. You know, I feel like we need music for this. So Okay. Last year, the Journal of Adolescent Health published a study that found 24% of suicides between the ages of 12 and 14 were completed by LGBTQ kids. Data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services indicates that LGBTQ youth seriously contemplate suicide at almost 3 times the rate of heterosexual youth. Another study from the National Center for Transgender Equity found that LGBTQ youth are almost 5 times more likely to have actually attempted suicide. So he cites all these statistics without really asking the question of why. Why are these people, transgender, adults, transgender youth, contemplating and trying to commit suicide? And of course, we've talked about that. They've got a mental health issue, and everybody is trying to exacerbate their mental health issue. They're not trying to help them out with it. They're exacerbating it. So of course they're going to be depressed, suicidal. But he goes on to blame, the lack of LGBTQ books. We need to exacerbate it further. Now I'm going to reach out to Mr. Kramer and try and get some comment on this. Maybe we'll hear from him in the next episode, which will not be next week. I'm taking a week off just because, man, trying to cram everything in before this election has been slightly exhausting. So I'm not going to do that. We'll probably be back in the next couple weeks. Maybe I'll continue to try and talk with some people, release a interview with some of the people that have won in races, especially the board of commissioners. See how they're going to deal with Mr. Davis's attacks on them. But we see that the Grand Haven Tribune is maybe not the best source for truth and justice. And we can even look in the comments, and we can see that people. So East Coaster says, as someone who is at the mentioned school board meetings in this article, I can assure you that this article is just plain wrong. There was never an intent nor a suggestion to remove LGBTQ books from the school. Never. There was a suggestion made to have books with inappropriate sexual content for 10 to 12-year-old students to be available only to students whose parents consented with this type of material. So there's a lot of actually comments here saying, yeah, this is totally made up. We're going to be talking to Jared Kramer about where he got his information here about the school board and Jen Stuppy's attempt here. But we've heard from Jen Stuppy. I mean, she went so far as to say that she wouldn't care if, you know, they had Hustler or Playboy in the schools. Just, you know, have parents be forced to, or have parents parental consent required for people to take that out, for children to take that out. So that's a bit more radical than I would go. I mean, she's not radical. She's far more lenient than I would be. I would not say that I would want, you know, a Hustler in the schools, but Jen Stuppy, she seemed like a pretty reasonable woman when I was talking to her. So the media just tried to slander her, specifically the Grand Haven Tribune. And the Grand Haven Tribune is not known for being a right-wing source of information or even a centrist source of information. They've fired conservative writers in the past. So maybe it's time that we have a newspaper here in Ottawa County that isn't diving headfirst into bed with the entire leftist agenda. Maybe. We'll get there. All right, so Jen Stuppy, my assessment of her is not a crazy person. So we move on. The Appellate Court. Appellate Court. My goodness, I cannot say this right. My mom is going to be laughing at me again for mispronouncing this. So the Appellate Court. What is an appellate court? So appellate courts, also known as the Court of Appeals, are the part of the American judicial system that is responsible for hearing and reviewing appeals from legal cases that have already been heard in a trial level or other lower court. That is according to Investopedia.com. That's kind of the sense that I got from talking to Ray Vogt. Now, Ray Vogt declined to come on the show for an interview for various reasons. So I will be doing my best to explain how the appellate, my goodness, it's just going to be appellate. The appellate court works. So we've got a case in front of a judge right now going to trial with a police officer. Police officer shot a black man. That case, of course, has blown up because the man was black, and the media and our community here has kind of run, well, not really our community, but just the media. Yeah, the media has run with it, claiming that this guy's racist, that he was out for blood, he's a cold-blooded murderer, and he just hates black people. So he's under severe scrutiny. Now, I watched the video, and I think I played the video on this show for you. Was it in this very studio? I think it was. I think I was living in this house when I played that video. Yeah, it was like last March. So yeah, I had to be here. So I played the video for you where this guy is trying to steal this cop's taser, where he's wrestling him to the ground, where he's trying to pull the cop down, and the cop eventually just pulls out his gun and shoots him. Ends up being in the back of the head as this cop's being flung around like a guy on a bull. So what the appellate court would do is when this lower, if this lower court finds this cop guilty of murder, the appellate court, the yes, oh my goodness, I'm saying it right without even thinking. The appellate court would be the next step. He would go to the Court of Appeals. He would say, I don't think the lower court's got this right. Will you please look at my case? Now, the reason why this is important is because if we have people that will actually interpret the law, the police has a reasonable right to self-defense. There's no way that a man fighting with the cop trying to secure his weapon from him is going to fly in any reasonable courtroom. So that's where conservative judges that will interpret the law come in. So we've got Mr. Ray Vogt. He says, this is directly from his website. My judicial philosophy is simple. Judges should interpret the laws according to what they say, not according to what the judges wish they would say. Judges are supposed to interpret the laws. They are not supposed to make them. The separation of powers enshrined in both our national and state constitutions protect people's right to self-governance by allowing the elected representatives of the people to make the laws. Judges, like everyone else, are bound by those laws and must faithfully interpret them rather than rewrite them from the bench. Judges, after all, are the public's servants, not the public's masters. Now, there is another very important reason that looking at the appellate court is vital, is necessary for you. Because that is the court that is right now holding up our abortion law. They're saying this law needs to be held in abeyance. We are not allowed to enforce this law. And they're going to continue to hold that up until at least Tuesday and probably beyond. They're going to continue to say this law is not constitutional or whatever. Even if I think Proposal 3 fails, I think leftist judges will find a way to strike a law that's been around for over almost 100 years. They'll say, nope, this is unconstitutional. We can't have it. So this is kind of the importance of finding out who our judges are. Now, it's extremely hard to get a hold of these judges. I asked for an interview with Miss Feeney. And now you can email them and you can ask them about their judicial philosophy, but talking with them, interviewing them, trying to find out what kind of ruling they're going to give us, how they're going to interpret the law. I mean, because anybody can say that they're going to interpret the law as it's written, but it comes down to which rulings have you made that prove that? Which rulings can you point to that show us that you are going to actually do what you say? You're not going to completely get rid of, the protection of the police and side with this drunk driver that's fighting the cop. What can you show us? And so I think Mr. Vogt is right now our best bet, because the other lady is endorsed by the judge that is actually holding up our abortion law right now, that is saying that it's not constitutional. So it's our best bet is definitely not the Feeney lady. We'll have to find out if Mr. Vogt will uphold his end of the bargain and from the bench uphold our laws in the way that they are written. But that's my endorsement, is you should go out and you should vote for Mr. Ray Vogt for District 3 Appellate Court. Now, that is all that I have for you today. What I'm going to have for you in 2 weeks is this. Ottawa Impact has put out a PDF document looking at the history of the sexualization of children in the public school system. But there's a few pages here. There's going to be, look at this, let's see, 14 pages. You can see the URL right here at the top. I believe you can go to Ottawa Impact's website and find it too. But their main thrust is that, I guess that's a bad wording for this kind of topic. Their main idea is that Proposition 3, which I've talked a lot about, is going to remove all parental rights from children. And we've talked about that a lot. And I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this because I haven't verified everything and I haven't read through the entire thing. But I would still say vote no on Prop 3. Okay, so that's all that we've got for you today. I'm trying to make my shows a little bit shorter, make them a little bit more bite-sized, while also getting you all of the important points. So with that, make sure that you get out and vote on Tuesday. Democrats, get out on Wednesday, of course. Bring with you another person to vote. If you have a friend that is not planning on voting, but they have conservative values and they say that, Proposal 3 shouldn't go through, get them out to the polls. We need everybody to get out to the polls because we're looking at an 11-point swing for Proposal 3. We're looking at a 5 to 7 point swing for Tudor Dixon. I'm not quite sure what it is for the rest of them, but we've got a fight on our hands for the top 3 spots in our state. We need everybody voting. We need everybody engaged. And eventually we'll need new media to help us stay informed without the bias. All right. With that, I'm Anon Don. This is the Holmes Politicast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.